as a cane cutter is two things we get from Guy Suko: a goatee and a bald head.
Hi there, it's good to be back with you. Carl Browne here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's take a trip down my time tunnel. Like, subscribe, and see what's behind there for you. Hi there, Carl Browne here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today we're going to look at another but a prominent Guyanese artist, photographer. His name is Persaud. Persaud was born in Guyana and grew up in Georgetown. He worked on moving to the United Kingdom and worked in the National Health Services from 1966 to 1975. He went on to become a technical specialist in adult and pediatric cardiology. He developed a keen interest in documentary photography, viewing it as witness to cultural and social practices, but also as a tool for change. Persaud's photographs and writings on the sugar industry will be presented by Michel Ya Asantwe. And I invite you to look at these pictures, and it takes you right back into the years when really sugar was doing in Ghana, but how hard and laborious it was for these cane cutters to experience. I present to you and give you Michel Ya Asantwe with Persaud's vision of the cane cutter and photography.
These photos that you're going to see are actually in contrast to other countries where the sugar production is mechanized. So what you're seeing, as Dio would put it, I'm speaking for Dio all this time, how he would put it is that Guyana's version is still very much as though it were back in the days of slavery. So he entitled this article, "As a cane cutter is two things we get from Guy Suko: a goatee and a bald head." One day I was with Dr. Rupert Rupnarine, traveling on the East Coast. We were at a junction in Enmore, and nearby was a truck laden with men covered in mud, wearing ragged clothes. This was in 2004, and the killing spree was wreaking havoc on the coast. Tensions were running high. I glanced over at the truck, not looking closely, and casually asked, "So they're catching up criminals, Rupert?" He looked at me and shook his head. "What's the matter with you, Dale? These are cane cutters." How much we do not know. How easy it is to close our eyes to the activity around us. There and then, I decided that I would use my camera to help make this labor visible and to offer a visual document of a day in the life of sugar workers on Guyana's coast. In 2004, I received permission from Guy Suko to go into the cane fields at LBI Estate, which is La Bonne Intention. Women work as weeders in the field, and African men are more present as cane cutters in other estates, but I accompanied a truckload of mainly Indian men. This, then, is just one of the many stories that could be told. I offer these reflections on that journey taken 14 years ago. It's 2 a wee walk for Guy Suko, me and my wife. She'll get up there clean to cook for me, roti, curry, dal and rice. When you go afield, they ain't got shop to go and buy food. You have to eat where your wife cook. This is what he told me as he waited for the Guy Suko. He never says who this he was. I imagine it's somebody who was showing him around. As we waited for the Guy Suko truck, which would take us to the back dam of LBI Estate. It was 6 in the morning as we stood on the main road, awaiting the arrival of the truck. The cool morning breeze and the awakening of an agricultural Guyana beckoned my inquisitive mind. I looked at the gathering of the 15 souls at the truck stop, waiting to be taken to a brutal world of cane harvesting in Guyana. All men, most were of Indian descent, dressed in clean, ragged clothes. They could have easily fitted into the state of Bihar. Cutlasses, plastic bottles of rainwater, and the ubiquitous rucksack stuffed with what clothes? food carriers laden with their meals for the day. In the sack was the taka, a kind of top hat that is worn to buffer the weight of the cut sugar cane while laden on the head. Inside the taka were bits of old cloth, curtains, old clothes. Then there were the gaisuko shoes. These were given out free to each seasoned harvester. After to wear them done, he told me. We were the last to be picked up, and helpful hands reached for me as I clambered into the already packed truck. The track that led to the cane fields was muddy, badly maintained, bridges that spanned crisscrossing canals, and vast fields of sugar cane swaying in the cool Demerara horizon. The human cargo was discharged at various points, depending on what fields were going to be harvested. A gentleman wearing better clothes and carrying books went around calling and ticking off names on his clipboard as he moved around the assembled group. Sometimes there were anxious faces. I was later told that there was a favoritism that existed, and if the foreman did not like you, you did not get any work for the day, or were given some lesser operation where the pay was not so good. From the assembled group of about 75, about 15 or so were men of African descent. In general, the younger men tended to stick together, while the older ones mixed more freely with everyone across generation and race. The working groups divided into gangs, and these also subdivided into a group of 4 or sometimes 2 who were given their specific target. The land, the canals, and the unrelenting mud were serious considerations. From the dam, you had to get across a canal, and this was bridged by a plank of wood measuring 10 inches across and about 20 feet in length. The cane cutters had to fetch this monster wherever it was required. Heading into the cane field held its own terror. You are faced with a wall of sugar cane, and you literally have to machete your way in, slicing the obtrusive sugar cane and solid vines that entangled the rising shoots. You hit that vine and your cutlass bounce back. Is boss your head gone boss? He told me as he carved his way into the fields, me following the path he cut. The gruesome task began. Men cut, they swiped, precise moves, strong hands grasping, grunts, sweat. A certain amount has to be left for the next crop, and the cutting of the cane had to be done at a precise angle. Bundles of cut cane were left on the ground to be transported to the waiting punts later. Each bundle averaged about 80 pounds, to be self-loaded, perched on the taka on one's head, and taken to be dumped into the punts. The men, especially the Indians, smoked a lot. After a certain section was done, a momentary break from the seemingly unending toil was a well-earned pull on a Bristol cigarette. Cigarettes were a premium in the background, and friendships are formed with the sharing of a drag after a toil in the rising mid-morning sun. Like cigarettes, water was very important. Some men came into the back dam without the resources of fresh water. They had to rely on their friends for the simple reason that they had no potable water at their place of abode. Others got water from the rainfall which they harvested from their roofs. Lunch break came around 11:30. Individuals, pairs and small groups sat around on cut bundles of cane. Africans brought bread and stew. Roti, curry, rice and dal were the main staples for the Indians. There was sharing and camaraderie. I sat on a cut bundle of cane, observing the operation unfolding before me. A man warned me, "Uncle, be careful how you're sitting. Scorpion or snake could be hiding inside the bundle." Back to work. Massive acreage was now cut, and it was time to load the punts. The bundles of cane were strapped using dried cane leaves. To strap the bundles of cane together, some of which weighed 100 pounds, required brute strength. A loose strap meant less income if the bundle broke loose on the way, scattering the cane in all directions. I watched these men grappling their burdensome bundles, fixing them on their heads, and then, with determined precision, heading for the empty punts, waiting to be loaded with the day's toil. I was told that a good man can fetch 3 tons of sugar cane laden on his head in one day. But this, I was told at the time, which was 2004, he can earn about 3,000 Guyana dollars, or the equivalent of roughly 15 US dollars. But getting the right pay for the weight that was cut and loaded is not straightforward. Historically, and in the present, the foreman and checker undercount or overpay workers depending on who is out of favor or who is a friend or kindred spirit. I was also told of a very insidious operation called Sweetwater. Sweetwater is a term used to describe the dumping of cane juice into the canals. The reason I was given was that to avoid bonus payments for the amount of cane cut and delivered to the factories, cane juice volumes were dumped in order to show that the required amount for the payment of a bonus was not reached. In the factories where disputes occurred, sabotage to the machines was a common practice when cane cutters felt they had been cheated. I observed the toil, the sweat, the sticky cane juice running down the faces and bodies of these determined men who are well versed in the brutal work of sugarcane harvesting in Guyana. Physical injuries are common, with a frail social backup for anyone injured in the fields. I found myself thinking, as I followed the men in the cane fields, there is not much difference between what I saw today and what one reads about the nature of this work during the days of slavery. And what about the Enmore 5? What about Kausila? What did they die for? Work over, truckloads of tired men headed to their different villages, mine the last stop of the day. With a small group, we headed to the rum shop, a usual fixture after the day's work. Stories were told by the men, ambitions for them and their young families were expressed. I was invited to their homes, saw their modest living conditions, heard about their aspirations and dreams: running water, electricity, a television, education for their children. Well, Uncle Dale, all we want is a little house, a nice yard, few picnic, and a good wife. Me would like me picnic go school, take education, and come right. That is all me want. Me have to cut cane because me not take education. God spare me hope me picnic not go through this. It is the system that is broken. It was under the PPPC in 2011 that the shutting down of the estate of LBI began, a process that was completed in 2016 under the APNU and AFC administration. Back in 2011, a female sugar worker was interviewed by Kaicho News, a single mother of 6 who had been working at LBI for 22 years. She was reported as saying, minibus fare gone up, bread gone up, cost of living going up, and we are not getting no increase. These people need to tell us exactly what is going on. One time they're telling us that they're merging and another time they're closing. I wonder what happened to the cane cutters at LBI who let me walk into the back dam behind them to capture their day, and all the other workers, men and women, African and Indian, and the families and communities that depend on them. What has become of all their dreams? Now with the news of more than 4,500 sugar workers laid off, I wonder how much has changed. Sweetening Bitter Sugar is the title of a book by Professor Clemency Chiran. From the time this crop sprouted its first shoots in the soils of Guyana, working peoples have only ever gotten the bitter end of the stick. Thank you.